Stop turning away work, burning out your team, and working so hard. Learn about the proven process that businesses everywhere are using to save time, save money, and hire all the people they need. We'll train your team to implement and run this process in-house so you can grow as fast as you want. Book a call with our team at corematters.com.
I think this was a Ben Franklin quote. You mentioned this before we started recording. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
Yeah.
I love that quote because you have to have a plan. And here's the thing too. There is no perfect plan, Ryan. Like the plan you start with is not the plan you're going to end with. So keep it simple. Like from a marketing standpoint, I use a 90-day marketing plan. 90 days is long enough to start seeing traction, getting some data that's going to help inform the choices that you make. But it's short enough where at the end of 90 days, we just wash, rinse, repeat.
In today's episode, we are going to be talking marketing. And if you've been around our community for a while, you know that my personal belief is that recruiting is marketing. So completely relevant to all things customer and employee acquisition related. How do we get more people to show up and be a part of our business? And if you've been around our community, you probably have heard this guy before. He was on our old show and he is just a wealth of information, so much knowledge when it comes to marketing strategy. I cannot wait to dig in. He's going to give us the 3 things we need to be doing before we start executing on our marketing. Last thing we want to do is be throwing mud up against the wall and praying that something works for us. So welcome to today's show, Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. Well, hey, Tim, welcome to the show.
Ryan, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is not the first time we've recorded a show together.
It is not.
So it's so great to catch back up. I am really excited to dig in today. Our focus here at Talent Tackle Box is to really think about how do we help our listeners with recruiting, with attracting new employees, even retaining them. You have this huge wealth of knowledge in the marketing space. And we were even talking a little bit about how marketing can help you with your recruiting. But before we jump into that, what's the big myth that you want to dispel for our listeners today? That shift that we're going to help them make as we go on this journey today?
Boy, from a marketing standpoint, I would say one of the biggest myths, the biggest issues that I see is people immediately jump into taking action without first getting the fundamentals in place.
Okay.
Right? The fundamentals in any discipline lay the foundation you can build the rest of your house from. And so it's so easy to just want to take action, right? We're battling information overload when it comes to marketing. There's all these channels, all these tactics, and it's like, I need to have a website, I need to have a podcast, I need to be on YouTube, I need to be on Facebook, and people just take action without really having that plan and those fundamentals in place. It is a huge mistake. People think that I'm wasting time because I'm not taking action, but doing the fundamental work, the strategy work up front will save you time and money in the long run. So just don't skip it.
Wow. I mean, you're talking about all those places like YouTube and Facebook and a website and all. I'm like, well, yeah, you need all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's just the common belief, but I think I hear what you're saying. And when you're not taking the time to figure all this out, it's really like throwing mud up against a wall.
Yeah. I talk about throwing spaghetti up against a wall and seeing what sticks. And sometimes stuff sticks.
Yeah.
A lot of times it doesn't. And even if it does stick, we don't understand why. Like, why did that work?
Oh, so you can't do it again.
Exactly. So it's not repeatable. It's not consistent and it's not repeatable.
Wow. Okay. I love this. So aligns a lot with what we talk about in recruiting. So break that down for me a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about this planning. And before we go out and we start executing, like, what do we got to do first?
Yeah. So from a marketing standpoint, the first place that you need to start is with your target market. Who are you going to serve and how are you going to serve those people? And we need to understand who our ideal clients are within that market. Okay, so for example, we have a CPA client that we work with, she's a tax advisor. She specializes in veterinary practices. She only works with veterinary practices, but not every veterinary practice is an ideal client either, right? So she's narrowed down, right? She knows she can see the target, which is really important.
Yeah.
But she also knows what are the characteristics about those veterinary practices that work really well with her. We have to hone in on that. Like so many people we talk to are, who do you serve? Small business owners. Man, that's so broad. It's too broad, and we can't hit targets that we can't see. We've got to narrow it down. So we have to start there, because everything from a marketing standpoint starts with your target market and who your ideal clients are within that market. If you don't understand that, everything else is going to be completely out of alignment. And that's why when people jump to tactics immediately, they're like, yeah, I tried SEO and I tried Facebook ads and I tried this and it didn't work. It's not that it doesn't work. It's that you put the cart before the horse. The vehicles that you chose to use didn't have the proper fuel.
Okay.
The fundamentals, the strategy is the fuel.
Yeah.
Okay. So everything starts with your ideal clients. So here's a quick way to hone in on your ideal clients. If you are an existing business, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You've already worked with clients. You have current, you have past clients. Ask yourself these 3 questions. I call them the 3 power questions. Who do we love working with? Who are our most profitable clients? And who do we get great results for? If you can work with people day in, day out that check all 3 of those boxes, you're in good shape, man. You're loving who you're working with. You're making money. And there's nothing wrong with making money. In order to serve people at the highest level, we have to make money.
Yep.
And you're getting great results for your clients. What happens when you get great results? They want to keep working with you. They want to do more work with you. They want to talk about you and refer you. Start there. Ask yourself those 3 questions. And when you do that, you're going to end up with a subgroup of current and past clients that check all those boxes. It is that subgroup that you can start to look at. Are there commonalities with these people from a demographic standpoint and a psychographic standpoint? Psychographic is where we get into their head, right? What's the problem that they have? What are the aspirations that they have? Their dreams, their goals? How are they feeling? That's how you can then start to, some smaller groups start to come to the surface that share commonalities. And it's those groups that can be your ideal clients.
When you were talking about getting really specific, you can't just say veterinarians, right? You got to get niche. I remember this was a decade ago. I remember this gal, she worked for a dentist. She was in a networking group with me and she stood up one time and she goes, my ideal client is anyone with or without teeth. And I was like, okay, so that's pretty much like, do they have to be breathing? Like, I mean, help me out here. And I'll never forget, about 6 months later, she comes in and she goes, my ideal client, and this was the shift she made. She goes, my ideal client is someone that you know and care about that's on blood pressure medication.
There you go.
And I was like, what? What does that have to do with teeth? And then she went on to say, and she goes, and I don't remember the details of it, but she's like, basically, if people deal with high blood pressure, they typically have a greater chance of losing teeth or having gum disease and all this other stuff. And I was like, wow. So now all of a sudden I'm going through the list of all the people I know that are telling me they're on blood pressure medication, which is a way smaller list than the with or without teeth.
It's much easier for you to identify those people.
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming. It's like, well, everybody that has teeth, that's like everybody. And that's a perfect example, Ryan, because it's like everybody with teeth, you're not coming up with anybody.
Yeah.
Narrows it down.
Yeah.
People you care about that have high blood pressure, like, oh my gosh, like I know 3 or 4 people.
I was going to say, I have 3 names right now, just that I know they're on high blood pressure medication.
There you go.
That's it.
And not only that, then when you have the conversation, it's like, hey, I know a dentist that specializes in working with people that have high blood pressure. Here's why that's important.
So different.
And you start listing it off and it's like, oh my gosh, well, like if you need brain surgery, do you want to go to the brain surgeon or do you want to go to your general practitioner? I mean, come on, you want to go to the brain surgeon. So there's a lot of benefits, but you just touched on one of them, which is it's so much easier for people to think of who to refer to you.
I love what you were talking to about psychographics, because that's something really important for us when we're looking at helping people with recruiting the right people. Nobody's ever told me, oh, I can't find any good people because they don't know how to turn a wrench or they don't know how to do the job. I always hear, I can't find any good people because they're lazy or they're entitled, or it's all this mental stuff that we have to deal with when we're talking about ideal employees. When you're talking about ideal customers, I find that the psychographics are so much more critical. Like the demographics point us in a direction, but the psychographics really help us get clear on that ideal customer, that ideal employee. Tell us a little bit more about the psychographics piece.
Yeah. So the psychographics, and I love that you bring this in because marketing for ideal clients is no different than marketing for employees and team members. It's the same. You're just trying to recruit two different types of people. But the psychographics from an employee standpoint, the psychographics is one, how you attract people that are going to be a good cultural fit. People that have certain values, right? Values aren't demographics. Values are psychographics, right? I want to hire people that care, about the job. I want to hire people that want to come in and work for a company that they feel is their family outside of their home. That's psychographic stuff. That's cultural stuff. And you know this better than I do, but man, how do you retain people? One of the ways you retain people is you hire people that are a good cultural fit. If they're a lousy fit, you're going to lose people super fast. They're not going to be a good fit. So when we're looking at the psychographics for our employees, it's like, what do they value? What are they looking for in the environment that they work for? Like most people don't just want to go to a job anymore. Like they can collect a paycheck anywhere.
Yeah.
What is it that makes our best employees who they are? Right. So, I mean, an easy way to do this, if you want to find out on the ideal client side or the employee side, you want to start to get into the people's head, interview them, interview your ideal clients, interview your current employees that are your best employees and talk to them.
I love that.
Why did you choose to work here in the first place? What made us different from the other 5 places you interviewed? Why do you continue to work here? Like, what do you love about it? How are you feeling before you got this job? How are you feeling now?
Yeah.
All of those things start to help you get in their head. And then you can start to craft a message, which I know you're great at this, Ryan, crafting a message for your ads that's going to start to attract those people that you want to attract, right? Your job ad should repel the people that you don't want to attract. And it should attract the people that you do, just like your marketing message should attract your ideal clients and it should repel everybody else. So the psychographics will really help us get into their head and enter the conversation that they're having in their head as it relates to your product or service, or on the employee side, like the company that they want to work for.
Well, you mentioned this on the retention side. One of the things that we do over here is we really help companies get clear on their culture, their values, their vision, their purpose. I think that is core to being able to have an effective recruiting strategy. But here's what I found out on the retention side. When you get really clear on those things and you understand what makes you tick and what's important to you and what you value, and you put it out there on the customer side, even when you start attracting customers that align with your values, that align with your vision, guess what? Those employees that align with that like working with those customers so much more. And all of a sudden, now you've got employees that are like, I like our customers. Whereas I see a lot of times we mix the message up. We give one message to customers, we give a different message to employees. And then what ends up happening is we end up bringing in a subset of customers that our employees can't stand, or that the customers can't stand our employees. And it ends up being a real nightmare on the retention on both sides, on customer retention and employee retention, because the psychographics aren't lining up. The value system isn't lining up. And that creates a ton of stress and turmoil inside of the organization on both sides. I think going back to this idea of this plan, and knowing before you start executing who the right people are, the people that you love, the people that are profitable, the people you know you can get results for. Like that's when I think a lot of people miss. Of course, they're like, I like working with them and I want to make money, but the ones you can actually deliver for.
We can't serve everybody well.
Yes.
Stop turning away work, burning out your team, and working so hard. Learn about the proven process that businesses everywhere are using to save time, save money, and hire all the people they need. We'll train your team to implement and run this process in-house so you can grow as fast as you want. Book a call with our team at corematters.com.
We need to know who those people are that we serve the best. And I love what you're talking about. Think about your friends. Do you hang out with friends that you don't share similar values with? Most of us don't. So it makes
we do, I don't like it.
Exactly. So. You're like, God, why do I hang out with that person, right? So it makes perfect sense that the values that you have as a company. That's why it's so important to identify those values. When you're attracting clients that share the same values and you're attracting employees that share the same values, they're connecting and we all share the same values, right? So of course that's going to work really, really well. Think about that. It's so fundamental, but it's so easy for most of us to overlook.
Yeah. So that's one part of having this plan before we start executing, is getting really clear on who we're going to be doing this for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that you're able to tie that into, it's not that different whether you're doing it for customers or you're doing it for employees. Maybe a little bit different messaging, a little bit different ways to execute.
Yeah.
But the strategy, the plan, all that's the same. What else do we need to know when we start putting this marketing plan together and before we start executing?
So the next thing, once you know who your ideal clients are, you got to have a good message, right? That's going to attract and engage those people. And I think there are a few things that we need to keep in mind here. One is we need to be clear and simple with our message, because when we confuse people, we're going to lose them.
Yeah.
The other thing is we need to focus our message on them, not us. Right?
So they have to be the hero.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah. They need to be the hero, but that, like, nobody cares about us. They care about themselves, right? So
yes,
if you're trying to attract ideal clients, what can you do for them? Like, what problem do you solve for them? And how do you help them get from where they are to where they want to be? On the employee side, how can you help them? Like, how are they going to benefit by working for your company? How are you going to make their life better? The message needs to focus on that. You know this much better than I do, Ryan, but my guess is 99% of job ads talk about the freaking company and some basics about the job. Okay. Here's what here's what we are looking for. How much of a shift would it be? How good would you feel if you went to a job ad and all they talked about was you?
Oh, now you're speaking my language.
Here's what we do.
Yes.
Here's how we can help you.
Yeah.
Man, you read that ad and you're like, oh my God, I've got to work for this company. Like, I got to talk to these people. Our message has got to focus on them, not us, because they don't care about us. They just want to know how we can help them solve the problem they have and get to where they want to be. And it needs to be simple, because if we make them think too much, like, we don't have patience anymore. Like our smartphones at our fingertips, we're used to information almost instantly. If we land on a job ad or the top of your website and we don't really understand it, we're like, nah, I'm going to the next ad or I'm going to the next website. So we have to keep it simple. This whole concept of your ideal clients and your messaging is the fuel that you're going to use in the vehicles that you choose to use from a marketing standpoint or from a recruiting standpoint. You got to have the fuel for the vehicles that you're going to use.
Oh, when you confuse, you lose. Like, that is, I can't believe how many times people are like, well, this is what we say internally. And I was like, yeah, but nobody knows what you speak internally. Like, you have to speak their language. I tell people all the time, I said, write it like you're explaining it to a child.
Yeah.
A fifth grader. Like, how would you explain it to them? Because that's how you're going to get clear in your messaging. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen, especially even in job ads, but even in just customer marketing, how clever they get and fancy because they feel like this is different. I'm like, yeah, it's different because nobody resonates with that. That's why no one else is doing it.
Somebody else put it like, story brand was where I heard, you confuse people, you lose them. I've also heard people just say, like, look, confused people don't buy.
Yeah.
They don't take the next step. So we've got to keep it simple. Don't try to get clever. If we make people use too much brain power, they're not going to do it. It just has to be simple. And one of the things you touched on too, Ryan, it has to be in their language. Their language is what's going to resonate with them. That's when they read something and they're like, oh my God, like, when this company put this ad together, were they like eavesdropping on me as I was sitting there on my computer trying to put my resume together? Like, gosh, I wish I could just find a company that gave a crap about me and wanted me to grow and continue to excel in my career. Whatever the language is that's in their head, you need to understand that language, because if that language is in your job ad, or it's on your website for your ideal clients, that's what's going to get them to go, oh my God, they get me.
Yeah, on that language piece, if you hire a lot of people that Spanish is their native language, post the ads in Spanish, post the questions in Spanish. I know it seems like one of those common sense, well, duh, nobody does it. In fact, the job boards aren't even supporting that. Like, you have to go out of your way to do it. But you want to get good, high quality people, speak to them in their native tongue. And it's so much better. It's not just the words that they use. The other thing I was thinking about too, when you were talking about, you want people to take action at the end of this. And I'm sure this applies in the customer marketing side too. On the recruiting side, I can't tell you how many times I've seen an ad that says, by the way, to apply, email us here, call us, visit our office, or fill out the application online. And I'm like, the second you give people options, they're just like, and they freeze, and it takes much longer to make a decision, to take the action. Like, one call to action, at least in job ads. I'm sure it's similar in customer marketing.
It's the same, right? Like, I was sitting down last night with my kids, going through all the streaming services I have, trying to find something to watch. We sat there for like 40 minutes going through. Do you want to watch this? There's too much crap. There's too much stuff.
Yeah.
Or when you go into the cereal aisle at the grocery store, you're like, oh my God, there's 50 different kinds of cereal here. Do I really? And you sit there and there's too many choices. We need to tell people exactly what we want them to do. Book a free consultation. Apply now. Don't give them more than one choice. Tell them what you want them to do. And by the way, repeat it multiple times. Make it easy. Some people, like in the job ad, this may be off, but on the customer marketing side of it, like, your main call to action, you don't want that one place on your homepage. You want them, as they scroll down the page, you want them to see it again and again and again, because it's not just one impression. It doesn't resonate. We need to hit them with it over and over again. And my guess would be on the marketing side for the employees, it's the same thing. Don't make them hunt for it. Just give it to them multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Make it really easy for them to find, but also like, oh, this is the 17th time they've said apply now. I think they want me to apply now.
That's right. That's right.
I think Donald Miller talks about like the asking, will you marry me? Right. And it's like right in the hero section. Will you marry me? Scroll down a little bit. Will you marry me? Scroll down a little bit. Will you marry me? It's like, this is the equivalent to, do you want to do business with me? Like, that's the equivalent in his world. And it was like, and if you ever go check out one of Donald Miller's landing pages, it's like, you cannot be on the screen and not see it like once or twice. It doesn't matter how far you're scrolling. It's just over. And it's the same thing all the time. When you mentioned StoryBrand, that got me thinking about that. And it's true.
Yeah. You never have to scroll very far to find the button to take action. And that's what we want. Because again, if we make it even just a little bit more difficult for them to take action, it's another hurdle. And a lot of people aren't going to jump over that hurdle. So we want to do everything we can to remove the hurdles, remove the roadblocks, and make it very easy for people to take action.
You know, and that one of the biggest things that I see that's a problem with so many websites is they don't want to give any real estate in the top of the website to a careers page. So they always bury careers in the footer or under the about us. And they make it so hard. And they're like, I don't know why people aren't applying with me. I don't know why I can't find anybody good. Well, because they don't even know how to apply. They don't even know you're hiring. Like, it's crazy.
Look, what's your priority? What is the purpose of your website? If one of the purposes of your website is to get people to apply, is it really that big of a deal to take some real estate up in the top navigation for careers? I don't think so. If it is, then it's obviously not a priority. You need to determine what your priorities are with your website, and that's going to dictate the actions that you choose.
I'll never forget. We had one client, big client, almost $100 million a year client. And they're like, yeah, we spend over $1 million a year just on advertising to get people to our website. I am not going to give that 7 letters to a careers page in the navigation above because I don't want to lose any of that. And I was just like, but you're here with me saying you can't find people and you're turning away business left and right. Like, make it easy for people to find. All right. Wait, is there anything else? So we got the target market figured out. We've got the good message. So we got the right message in front of the right people. Is there a third step? There's probably 27 steps.
But there are others. Look, the reality is once you have those 2 fundamentals in place,
Yeah.
Then you start to jump into planning, where you're outlining the vehicles that you're going to use. And from a marketing standpoint, whether it's for ideal clients or for careers, team members, you got to have some kind of plan. If you don't have a plan, one, you don't know what your priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have clarity, which increases stress. It's also very easy to get distracted and be like a squirrel chasing a nut, right? And throwing spaghetti up against a wall. You're never going to get consistent, repeatable results. I think this was a Ben Franklin quote. You mentioned this before we started recording. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
Yeah.
I love that quote because you have to have a plan. And here's the thing too. There is no perfect plan, Ryan. Like, the plan you start with is not the plan you're going to end with. So keep it simple. Like, from a marketing standpoint, I use a 90-day marketing plan. It keeps things simple. 90 days is long enough to start seeing traction, getting some data that's going to help inform the choices that you make. But it's short enough where at the end of 90 days, we just wash, rinse, repeat. Because if you use a year-long marketing plan, after the first 60 to 90 days, you're changing stuff. So why take the time to create this super complicated plan when it's just going to change that quickly? Go 90 days, keep it simple, outline what your priorities are and what your next steps are, and just start taking action and outline what you're going to measure that's going to help you determine whether things are working, whether you're gaining traction, whether you're not. And then at the end of the 90 days, you can make your adjustments, update your plan, and then you wash, rinse, repeat.
Well, it got really simple there at the end. So it sounds like once we do the hard work and we figure out our target market and get our message, we just got to put a plan in together just so we know what we're measuring against, just so we know, are we on the right path? And we can look at the last 90 days and say, hey, did we do what we thought we were going to do? Nope. We can change course versus an annual plan or a 5-year plan. You don't want to be checking that often. You know what, Tim, this has been great. I got a page of notes here. I know that there was a ton of value in this. For people that want to learn more about either just consuming your content, like you're prolific in putting out content, podcasts, blog articles, everything else, or they want to connect with you, what's the easiest way for people to learn more, connect with you? I think you've even got a giveaway for our listeners today.
Yeah, there's 2 places I'll recommend people go, Ryan. One is our website, which is rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. There's tons of free resources there. You can always connect with me there. The other thing I'll make available to your audience is over at revenueroadblockscorecard.com. So at revenueroadblockscorecard.com, you will be able to discover and assess which of the 9 revenue roadblocks are slowing down your growth. It takes less than 5 minutes. Customized report. If you want to accelerate growth, if you want to grow, you got to remove your roadblocks, and that report will help you do that.
Awesome. Tim, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we were able to reconnect. I'm so excited about all the stuff you're doing over there at Rialto, and thank you for sharing those tips with our listeners today.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It was a blast, man.